All right, so we're back for more with Gray Cook, just doing some Q&A in his new facility here. One of the questions that I had, Gray, was about the multi-segmental extension pattern. Really in that pattern, we're looking a lot at the hips and we're looking a lot at the T-spine with the breakouts. And one of the questions I got was looking at the hips, if the hips are dysfunctional, non-painful with extension, doing some of the mobility and stability fixes were not sticking until this particular person started to go after the T-spine more. And it seemed to start becoming a pattern for him that when he fixed T-spine, the hip extension fix would now stick, whereas it wasn't before. So are you seeing a pattern with, maybe you should go after one versus the other first, do them both together? I mean, kind of what are you seeing as you treat patients there? Because like you said earlier, you're trying to be a sniper, one shot, one kill. Find the biggest problem first and take it out.
Well, it's not just the biggest problem, it's the one you're most competent to handle. So if you follow what I say in the movement book and what we say in FMS courses, I will tell you to fix the active straight leg raise before shoulder mobility. The active straight leg raise is the lower quarter, the pelvic segment of the core. Shoulder mobility isn't shoulder mobility at all. We call it shoulder mobility so the patients and athletes know what we're talking about. But shoulder mobility is T-spine extension, T-spine rotation. In the movement screen workshops, I tell non-clinicians, fix the leg raise first. Just do your pelvic symmetrical work first. Get the leg lowering progression or the leg raises symmetrical first. I don't tell them that because it should come before or after the T-spine. I tell them that because it fixes easier and creates a better platform for T-spine mobility. And I cannot assume that exercise professionals have soft tissue capacity. In some states, a personal trainer is not even allowed to do any type of hands-on stuff other than shake your hand, welcome to the session. So if you have no soft tissue capabilities whatsoever, you can make a larger gain in leg raise change, especially if you have an asymmetry. With corrective exercise, then you can T-spine mobility. But if you show up to an SFMA, I'm going to show you those patterns. It's going to be the neck patterns, the shoulder patterns, the sagittal plane patterns, forward bending, backward bending, then the rotational patterns, then single leg stance, which is an exaggerated weight shift, and then deep squatting. And I will tell you if there's cervical dysfunction, get that off the table. Yeah, but it's a single leg stance problem. I don't care. Cervical dysfunction, get it off the table. Well, why? Does neck range of motion play a role? Does vestibular play a role? Does keeping your eyes on the horizon play a role? All that plays a role. And secondly, we initiate our movement patterns from the neck. We did it in the crib, and just because the neck isn't moving doesn't mean the neck doesn't have a stabilization role. So having said that, if you look into the SFMA technology, we take a cephalocaudal, head to tail, and proximal distal, spine to extremities approach, which says take serious neck dysfunction off the table, even if their symptom isn't a neck issue. Take serious shoulder mobility, T-spine dysfunction off the table, even if it's not an issue. And I think the T-spine mobility drives core stability. By saying that, what I'm saying is if we open up the intercostals, if we get the shoulders moving independently of each other, and then get the T-spine rotating independent of the pelvis, then the muscles that attach to the lower part of the rib cage can better stabilize the pelvis. So if we create freedom of motion here and reduce restriction here, then we elongate muscle fibers. If we elongate muscle fibers, their spindles and the joints that lie within that compartment can move and communicate better. So I literally think one hidden secret to better reflexive core stability is creating better T-spine mobility. So that explains how creating the T-spine mobility allows hip extension to happen, because hip extension is often excessive lumbar extension. Let's say that hip doesn't extend. You will ingate, hyperextend your lumbar spine on stairs and up hills and down hills just to get through. Now, I can't expect your hip to fully extend if every time you extend your hip, your pelvis tilts anteriorly. Now, we could start planking and doing lots of things to get your abs to fire, but it's not an ab strength issue, it's an ab timing issue. Flexibility training improves the potential to reset timing. It doesn't automatically reset timing, it improves the potential. So, let me give you a typical example. I can get into your T-spine, do some soft tissue, maybe some manipulation, maybe some superficial work, maybe even some needling. Either way, I have demonstrated that you came in with this much rotation and now you're symmetrical and you've got 45 degrees. I immediately take that mobility maybe to some upper body rolling patterns or some prone on elbows reaching. The minute I see competence there, meaning you can stabilize here and reach there or roll in your upper body quadrants, then I take you into a hip extension pattern again. Where's the hip extension pattern? Is it with weight? Is it a single leg deadlift? Hell no. It's in a rolling pattern using extension right there. It's not even in bridging. I'm seeing if you can cover the range of motion before I load it. But if I see your range of motion be equal on both your hips, then we may stand up or we may half kneel, do some chops. We may stand up and step over something. Because I don't want you thinking about extension. I want you thinking about advancing the other leg, which requires extension. So T-spine mobility is a huge issue. And if I had to give you 3 areas when your neck, back, and knee patients complain to you, look at their ankles, hips, and T-spine. And you will find dysfunction in their ankles, hips, and T-spine, even though they don't come to you and say, please adjust or mobilize or manipulate my T-spine. Please make more freedom of motion in my hips. Please restore my dorsiflexion. They won't say that. They'll say my knee's killing me, my low back is shredded, my neck hurts. And so if we look at those areas above and below the areas of pain, we will find stability issues or more commonly mobility issues. Clean up the mobility, give them ways to reset their timing that doesn't overload them so much. And that's why I always restore rolling and then quadruped before I ever go to something like bridging. Bridging is more of a strengthening exercise. Rolling and quadruped diagonals are simply, can you coordinate reciprocal motion or not? And when we do that, for some reason we reset it. Those patterns start flowing, we stand them right up and we see that extension come back in gait. So in the FMS, let me be clear, we say fix the leg raise first, T-spine mobility or shoulder range of motion secondly, because it changes quicker and because soft tissue, I must assume, is not an option for the non-clinician. And it will change if pain's not driving it. A quicker change for somebody with soft tissue skills, especially when it's complicated by pain, is definitely take the neck down approach. Clean up the neck, even if it's a low back pain issue, it will drive the pattern better. And many times in the SFMA, we've seen somebody who has a limited toe touch and limited cervical flexion. We will do something for cervical flexion, toe touch spontaneously resets itself. Had we gone to hammering the posterior chain, lengthening the hamstring, strengthening the spine flexors and stuff like that, we might have still gotten there, but it probably wouldn't have stuck. Simply resetting the top of the spine pattern, reset the entire weight shift and forward bending. So bottom up approach in the FMS for the reasons I talked about, top down approach in the SFMA for the exact reasons I talked about.
All right, that's good stuff. All right, we'll stay tuned for more Q&A with Gray.